What is up, TheBrick.Church? Man, we are so excited that you have joined us for church online today. We believe God has got something really special planned. Right now would be an amazing time for you to go ahead, like, comment, share, maybe tag somebody in that you think this would be great for. And right now what we're about to do is we're going to jump right into worship as we start a brand new message series. Let's check it out.
I searched the world, but it couldn't feel me. And man's empty praise and treasures of faith are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. Is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh,
what an amazing moment of worship. What a special team and church we have. Man, here at The Brick, we've got some core values. And one of our core values is that we will do anything short of sin to reach people who don't know Christ. And to reach people that no one is reaching, we'll have to do things that no one is doing. And we are doing something very different for us starting this week. You see, our lead pastor, Jared Callahan, has a message that he believes God has put on his heart. And so starting this week, we have a brand new series called The Cross or the Sword, Choose Your Kingdom. I believe it is incredibly special. I'm super excited for what I think God stands ready to do in our lives. And so right now, what I want you to do is to get ready, prepare your heart as we hear what God has for us.
Today, I am excited that we're starting a brand new series. The name of this series is called The Cross or the Sword, Choose Your Kingdom. Now, I'm actually really nervous about this message series. Not nervous to preach it, but because there was a similar message series that I heard several years ago, 2004 even, that shifted some things in me. And my prayer during this time is that it shifts some things in you, that it impacts you the same way it did for me. See, for me in that moment, when I heard that series, it started to really create a divide for me in the way the world works and the way the kingdom of God works. And making a clear distinction between the two is going to force us to choose which one we trust. So today and through the next few weeks, we're going to challenge ourselves to choose the kingdom of God over the kingdom of this world. In order to do that, we're going to create a divide between how the two work. And as we do that, my prayer is that it impacts you and you see the power of the gospel. You see the power of the way Jesus worked in using the cross and the way that he worked in sacrificing himself. And as you find that power, that it infiltrates every aspect of your life, that every aspect of your life starts to shift to give the cross the weight and the trust and the hope that it deserves. That we stop having trust in the sword and continue to live our lives out by the cross. So as we jump into it, I would love for you to be praying with me. I would love wherever you're at to cover this message in prayer, because we are so infiltrated with the idea that the sword is more powerful, that it's going to challenge us to take the cross more seriously and to recognize its real power. So let's pray as we jump in. God, today I pray that you would challenge our hearts. God, that our minds would be open and our hearts would be open to what you're saying. And that, God, we wouldn't be followers of you that try to blend the cross and the sword. That, God, we would be followers of you that are sold out to the power that is in the cross, and that it would create in us action steps that start to live out the cross in every aspect of our life, and that we learn to trust the power of the cross and we choose your kingdom over the kingdom of this world. In Jesus' name, amen. So the message is going to be based mainly on one set of scriptures that we're going to look at and keep referencing back to. So let's jump in there. That's Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 through 28. A little bit of context. Before this set of verses, there are a couple of disciples whose mom gets involved. Now, I don't know if that's embarrassing for you, but when your mom starts to come to Jesus to get you authority, it might be having been embarrassing for these disciples. So what happens is that their mom comes to Jesus and is like, hey, Jesus, when you go into your kingdom, would you let my two sons be on either side of you? I imagine they're like, Mom, come on, that's embarrassing. But I mean, if you would, that'd be cool, Jesus. But Mom, chill out. And in the midst of that, the disciples over here, like, how dare you, like, who do you think you are? Why'd you just try to jump over all the others of us and you get to have the authority? And Jesus hears this, and then this is what happens in verse 25. It says, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. See, Jesus is outlining in this moment, in this passage, the difference between the two kingdoms. He's saying the kingdom of this world, the way that everybody else works, is that they seek authority and power and control, and they use opportunities to have those in order to control people's behavior. And what he's saying for us as followers of him, that the way that we're going to work, the way that if you want to be on my right and my left, if you want to have a position of authority in the kingdom of God, Jesus says you're going to have to use any authority you've ever had to serve. Every title you've ever been given is only an opportunity to serve and to love somebody. See, because the way the world works is actually by the sword. So the illustration today and throughout the rest of the series is the sword is the representation for the power that the world uses against us. The power the world uses is to take the sword and to potentially place it at your neck and say, I have power, I have authority, now change your behavior the way that I want you to live. The power of the sword is to take every title we've ever been given and use it to lord it over you, to take this sword and to use it as a weapon to control our surroundings. And the thing is it's an addictive thing. It's addictive to find out that I've got a title at my work. I can tell these people what to do. I can metaphorically place this sword at their neck and control their behavior. And if they get out of line, they show up late, they don't do their job right, I can use it to crush them. I can use it to tell them that they're not doing right and get their behavior to change. And what we found is that throughout Scripture, especially the Old Testament, we found out that God had this idea of behavior modification, that He gave all of Israel this opportunity to follow Him. He said, you know what? I'll tell you exactly how you can please me as your God. A God who loves you. I'll give you all the rules, all the regulations you need, and you can follow me, and I'll be happy because you chose to trust me and follow my commands. And what we found out is that none of us are able to follow the rules enough. None of us are able to just adjust our behaviors. That the problem is that our behaviors never shifted our heart. That our choices and the decision we made were only in order to just look good, not actually be good. But see, there's another power, and that's the power of the cross. And what Jesus did is He said this, listen, I'm not here to change your behaviors. I'm here to change your heart. That in this moment, in this season, I want to show you a way to not force people to live the way that you want them to live, but to choose to love them so their heart is changed. So there's a shift internally that bleeds out to the external because the other way doesn't work. See, if I hold this sword up and I force you to change your behavior, you're going to do it because you're scared of me. You're going to do it because of the title I've been given, because of the power that I'm wielding. You'll change your behavior, but your heart is not changed. But if the gospel is true and the power of the cross is real, then when I come under and I serve, when I choose to use the power of the cross as I choose to serve and it shifts your heart, then your behaviors change. As your heart is shifted, then your actions start to change. See, we tried for so many years to be good and found out we couldn't make it. And God is saying, I want to change your heart. And as you follow me with your heart, then your actions will change. It's the opposite of the way the world works. The problem is, and the reason this message is scary is because we're all addicted to the sword. We have been trained from the youngest of ages to believe that the power of the sword, the power of control, and whichever way we can attain it, is the thing that will work. If we want to get what we want out of life, then we need the sword. See, even at really young age, like right now I have a 2-year-old. My son Jack has already learned that he wants power, that he wants control. He's a little miniature monarch in our house who thinks that he has authority to control everything and everyone in our house. And see, if his sister has a toy that he wants, he'll do whatever it takes to get that toy because that's what he wants and that's how he can control. He'll pull hair, he has to do whatever he wants in that moment to get the thing that he wants. See, it's addictive because it's in our nature to want the sword. It's in our nature to want power and to want control. And it's in our nature to want to make our environment into what we want it to be, rather than shifting the hearts of those around us. And as we grow older, the older we get, the more we're reinforced in that. As soon as we start into school, we find out that we've got to choose how we want our power. We can choose to have our power by being the smartest in class. And we can find out that the teacher likes us and we get more things and we're able to do more things at school if we just do our best and we show everybody how smart we are. We got the grades, everybody respects us and looks up to us. Or if that power doesn't work, maybe we're not naturally as intelligent as somebody else. Maybe we're stronger, so we can use brute force. We can be the bully at school, and other people can be scared of us, and we can have control of the class because they're scared to say anything against us. So we choose to wield the power of our physicality. Or maybe that didn't work. Maybe we're not that strong, not that smart. Well, we got to work on being funny. Maybe we can have a good personality and we can manipulate the situation. The second the bully comes, the second the smart person comes, we can get them laughing and we can get them to do whatever we want because we've learned to figure out which ways we can have power to control the situation. And then we continually are reinforced into this addiction of power and control. The older we get, we start to play sports and we think, man, if I can be the best at this sport, then people are going to respect me. I can get more of what I want, do more of what I want. And then we start to think about careers and we start to say, if I can have enough money, then I can have anything I want. And I can get people to do whatever I want. I want more power, more control, more of the sword. I want to control the world. I want to control the direction my life goes. I want to use my titles to control. The second somebody gives us a title that we're the boss or we're something in a position of authority, we got control. We control the people that are under our authority. We get to tell them what to do. And this message that we're hearing is going to be really difficult for myself and the rest of us. It's going to be difficult to hear that I have to choose to give up power. I have to choose to give up control. Because what we're finding, if you recognize and believe that the gospel is true, is that the sword only modifies the behavior, but the cross changes the heart. I'll say that again so you can hear it. The sword will modify behavior, but only the cross can change the heart. So for some of us, we've started to recognize our heart has been shifted, not because somebody told us the rules, not because somebody enforced their title on us, not because somebody yelled at us and told us we were going to hell, but because somebody represented the cross to us. Somebody came into our lives and let us know that, look, man, I love you enough to ask some questions. I love you enough in this moment to find out who you are and to let you know the goodness of God. And that changed our hearts. And sometimes, because we're so trained in this addiction, sometimes we have this conflict. Sometimes we have this conflict where we think, well, sometimes I need to use the sword, and sometimes the sword is the best thing ever and it's going to work, and sometimes I need to use the cross. That, well, the cross worked for me, but the cross doesn't work for everybody. Some people need to know that they're wrong. Some people, I need to tell them what it is and how it is, and they just need to know they're wrong and that I'm right. And we keep finding opportunities to pick back up the sword. See, because strangely enough, most swords can be made to look like a cross. Most swords can be wielded in a way to look like the cross. That we can suggest and say, well, it's pretty much the gospel. And we can shift the way that we think about the world to fit our view of the sword. I mean, it pretty much is the cross. Some of us have gone so far as to just sell out and to believe that the whole point of the gospel, the whole point of the cross is so I can have more stuff. That I can get as much stuff in this life and have the nicest car, the nicest house, the nicest things. Because that's the cross. But really the whole time it was just the sword. For some of us, we've thought that, well, if we can just get America to shift into our opinion and to live right, well, that looks like the cross to me. If I can tell them the morality that's in the Bible and force them to live it out through laws and regulations in our city and in our government, then they're going to follow the cross. But it turns out we just merged the cross and the sword, and all it was all along was just the sword. Because we are so addicted to the idea that we need power, that we need control. But if we look and we reflect for a moment, it wasn't power and control that changed our hearts. I remember the time that someone, a close friend of mine, used the cross when he had the opportunity to use the sword. It was early on in my ministry, and he's now a really good friend of mine, but at that point he was kind of my boss. And his name's Jerry Kuhn. And Jerry was in charge of all of the youth inside of the state of Oklahoma in the denomination I was serving. And at that point, I was young in ministry. I was 21 or 22. And if you're 21 or 22, you know that you know all the answers, right? Or at least I did when I was 21 and 22. I thought I had it all together. If the church would just listen to me, I would fix all their problems. And I was serving underneath Jerry. And Jerry had a position of authority over me. And at one point, he came to me and he started asking some questions about some things that had come up. And he said, I've noticed that on your Facebook page, there are some pictures of you at a bar. And see, if you knew me back then, I was ready for rebellion. I was excited about the opportunity to tell people how I was living like Jesus. And see, because for me to go to the bar was not an opportunity to drink. And so I had become prideful in me being at the bar and living with sinners and looking like Jesus in that way, and not thinking for a second that maybe it wasn't the best decision. I'd prayed about it and felt like being there for a friend of mine who was playing in a band at the bar was the most godly decision. What wasn't the most godly decision was to use that moment as pride to show the world that I'm the rebellious, I'm this young pastor who's cool and hip and loves like Jesus. But instead it turned into pride. It turned into this opportunity for me to think that I was something special. And I didn't take even a moment to think that it might be really confusing for students. That maybe they're not going to be able to go to the party and not drink. Maybe they can't be in that setting and we're sending mixed signals. So Jerry in that moment could have just roasted me. I mean, he could have just destroyed my life and told me how stupid I was being and how harmful I was being to students, that students were looking up to me, and I could have ruined their future. I could have ruined their destiny and their eternity because I wasn't living the example God had called me to be. All of those things could have happened, but instead he came with the power of the cross, and he asked questions. And he found out, okay, so you were at the bar, but you weren't drinking. Tell me about that. Well, I wasn't drinking. I was there, and I prayed about it, and I felt like the best way to love my friend was to be there and to support him in his band. I wasn't there just for fun. I wasn't there just to hang out. I was there because I thought the best way to love somebody would be to be there. Even though I knew, Jerry, that other people might be offended by it, I thought it was the best decision. He said, I get that. That makes sense. And kind of affirmed that's good that you want to love your friend. And so then he started presenting questions. Is it possible that your students are going to be confused by that? Is it possible that you're setting an example for them to go in places that they're not quite strong enough to be in right now? And he started asking enough questions that I knew that he cared. I knew that it wasn't just an opportunity to wield a sword in my life, but it was an opportunity to present the cross to me and to love me in that moment. And by the end of the conversation, he said, look, I respect your decision, but what if you just took the pictures down? What if you just untagged yourself in those pictures so it wasn't confusing for the students around you? And that was a conversation that corrected my action, but it changed my heart. Because I was willing to do what, at the beginning of that conversation, there's no way you could have convinced me to do. I would have jumped ship from everything I was doing to prove that I was right, and I was doing the godly thing by loving my friend well, by going to that bar. But Jerry asked enough questions and had enough cross mentality to come under, to love me. Till the end of that, I was like, first off, I love you, Jerry, for the way that you came to me in that moment. And secondly, my heart is shifted to see things in a whole different way and to drop my moment of pride and my moment of self-righteousness and say, you know what? Those pictures, leaving those pictures up aren't worth hurting somebody else in the process. Loving people is far more important than the perception that we've wanted. And so my heart shifted in that moment, not because Jerry had a sword. He did have a sword. He had a title. He had authority over me. But he laid down his sword and he picked up a cross. And he said, Jared, have you ever thought about these things? Do you think maybe you're hurting people? And the cross changed my heart, not the sword. Because the sword can only change behavior. It can never change a heart. So today, the reason we're in this series and the reason I'm excited about God utilizing this series is because I believe that we're in a very unique moment where we can hear it. For many of us, we're addicted to control. We're addicted to power. And right now, in the midst of a pandemic, we found we're actually on the other side of it. So maybe you can reflect back on the middle of that pandemic and how we feel. And maybe we're able to receive something that we've never in our life been able to receive before. The realization that we're not in as much control as we think we are. The realization that one small, microscopic virus shut down the world. The whole world shut down because of a singular, it's not visible to the naked eye, And we all stopped doing the normal life that we had. Many of us, our power was completely taken away from us. Our control, we had no control about where we can go. Our governments were telling us what we could or couldn't do. And what I would present to you is that maybe that's the reality we've always been in. Maybe what we're finding out in this season is what has always been true. We thought we had control, but control was only a facade. That we thought we had power, and we thought the sword was doing something, that we thought that the sword was effective, and we thought that we could do something around us and control things. And we're finding out that in a moment our dollar can drop, in a moment our investments can tank, in a moment we can be forced to stay in our house, that we thought we had control but we have none. And if you can recognize that, maybe it can be the start to you laying down the sword in every area of your life. Maybe it can be the start to you picking up the cross and realizing the only power you have is in submitting your life to God and picking up your cross. Is to choose to love those around you and choose to give over your life to the one who created you and know that He will use it and He will wield you as a weapon to change the hearts around you. See, it says this in Matthew chapter 16, verse 25. It says, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it." Maybe you lay down your sword. And as you lay down that sword, you pick up the cross and you find real life. You find what real freedom looks like. You stop the facade that is the constant pursuit from the age of 2 on, this constant addiction to control, this constant addiction to power, this need to wield it so that the world around you could be controlled to the way that you like it. And you found out you don't actually have that power. That it's always been a facade and it always will be a facade. And maybe now in this season you can recognize it's time to give up the sword. It's time to give up power, because Scripture promises us that the more that we try to pick up the sword, the more that we're going to fail, the more that we're going to lose life. But if we choose the cross, then we'll find our real life. See, in Scripture, there was this moment where Jesus solidified that. Again, later on in Matthew, we started out in Matthew 20, but in Matthew 26, He solidified what He's saying. He solidified that the only real power is our submission to the will of God. The only real power is our submission to the goodness of who God is in our life. Because they were about to take Jesus. In Matthew chapter 26, they're about to take Jesus. And as they're about to take Jesus, one of His disciples decides to pick up a sword and grab a sword from one of the guards. And I mean, this guy has been around Jesus for 3 years. And he still is addicted to the sword. So it's not surprising that it's difficult for us to let it go. It's not surprising that it's hard for us to lay it down, because it'll be a consistent process that we have to choose to lay down the sword. Because that's why Jesus says we daily need to carry our cross, because we're so naturally addicted to pick up power and control that it's going to have to be a daily process to choose to trust the cross and to choose to live by the cross. So one of His disciples takes the sword from the guard and cuts off his ear to protect Jesus, to stop Jesus from going to the cross, to stop Jesus from doing what Jesus had already predicted that He was going to do. He's like, no, that's not the way I wanted it. That's not the control that I was thinking would happen. That's not how I thought the kingdom would be taken back. That's not how I thought the kingdom of God should go. And Jesus says this, verse 52, "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "For all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and He will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels?" See, the real power in the cross is that when you have the choice and the opportunity to wield control and to place the sword at somebody's neck, you choose, like Jesus did, to lay it down. Because Jesus had the power. He let us know, if I wanted to in the season, we could call it 12 legions of angels to come and to take care of all of this and stop it. But I laid down my sword, because those who live by the sword die by the sword. Those who try to save their life will lose it. But those who submit themselves to the cross, those who give up their life, will find out that they really found it. That they choose to lay down the sword. See, it's not powerful when we're put under subjection outside of our will, when we're forced inside of our house because of the pandemic. That's not powerful. That's just awful. It's annoying, it's terrible. But it is powerful when we have the option to pick up a sword, we have the title, we have the option to use control, we have the option to wield our power over people, but instead we choose to serve. Instead we choose to love. That's where the power of the cross comes in, is when we choose to love, when we have the option to control. And if you want hearts to change, just like yours changed, then you'll have to choose the cross. And every single day, choose to trust the cross, choose the kingdom of the cross rather than the kingdom of the sword. And if that's you and you're making that decision and you're saying, you know what, I haven't thought of it in that light, I want to pray with you. I want to pray over you all through this series, that as you reflect on that and as you spend some time letting that soak into your heart and let it guide your life and let it guide every decision you make. We're going to go over different topics and ways that we're going to choose the cross rather than the sword. And it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult, and I want to pray over you that you would let God in and that you would learn to trust the cross more than you do the sword. God, for those out there that are making this decision to say, you know what, I've picked up the sword in different ways in my life. I've trusted the sword, or I've combined the cross and the sword, and it's always been the sword. I thought that I was just trying to be moral, and now I want to submit to you. Now I want to trust you and your ways. I will lay down my life for you. So in every area, God, may I lay down my sword and trust the cross. In Jesus' name. For others of you, you may be in this moment recognizing the power that is the cross. And maybe in this moment, you're recognizing that you've always lived by the sword, that you've never for a second thought about submitting your life to the one who gave his life for you. That you found out his way is right, and today you will submit your life to him, that you will choose to lose your life. I know that's the most uplifting thing that you can hear today, is you came into a service thinking, hey, I'm at Facebook Live, I'm going to hear an uplifting message. Hey, you should die to yourself. Oh, that's not what I wanted to hear. But maybe you'll find that as you die to yourself and the ways of the sword, that when you pick up that cross and you choose to give up everything to follow Jesus, you'll find out you found your real life. You'll find out that the only life to be had was in Jesus. It doesn't mean that it will be easy. It doesn't mean that everything will be perfect. But it does mean it will be worth it. It does mean that God will show you the way, and you'll find out that you've been living under a facade the whole time. And He's going to open your heart and make you brand new. And He's going to open your eyes to see the world in a different way and to see the real power that He created in you as His masterpiece. And if that's you, we want an opportunity to pray with you. This week, we would love an opportunity. If you're saying, you know what, I am brand new, I'm different, I'm going to choose to follow Jesus. We're going to pray a prayer right now. And as you pray that prayer, I want you to click on the link at the end. And I want you to let us know so that we can follow up with you, so that we can help you to continue to let down the sword and pick up the cross. So if that's you, I want you to pray this after me. Very simple prayer. Dear Jesus, I follow you with my whole life. I accept your forgiveness. I accept your sacrifice. And now you have my heart. In Jesus' name, amen. If that's you and you said that prayer, we're celebrating with you. The world is celebrating that decision because Scripture tells us the angels rejoice. And people all over the world that are followers of Christ are rejoicing with you making that decision, because there is no better decision you can make to find out that the sword has always been a facade and now you follow the way of the cross.
Man, we are so excited for those of you who are making that decision. Again, if you just made that decision, please click that link. We really want to get to know you. We want to connect with you, come alongside you as you're starting this journey of following Christ. You see, part of doing things a little differently like today is it's actually given us the ability to have some different kinds of conversations. And as a team, we've been thinking through what's the best way to do church again? What's the best way to get back together? And so what I want you to know is over the next few days, I want you to be looking out for some information. We are going to be sending out a video this week, and it's going to let you know what coming back together might look like. We're super excited about what we believe God's going to do. Now's the time in our experience where we receive our tithes and offerings. And what I want to say is thank you. As a church, we've been able to be creative and do different things to reach people. And we're seeing people come to know Jesus and to be a part of the church. And it's your faithfulness that creates all of that. This ability to do church online is happening because of your faithfulness. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for helping create a space where we can do anything short of sin to reach people who don't know Jesus. And for those of you who are ready to give, we've got 3 ways for you. So one way is if you want to do it with a physical check, you can mail it to 1302 South York, Muskogee, Oklahoma 74403. You can also click the link that's going to be in the comments below, and it's going to allow you to give virtually online. And if you would like, you can also do it through text message and link it up to a debit or a bank account and give that way. However you give, thank you for being a part of the local church. And remember, whoever finds God finds life.